70. 70 pointer. You guys better get ready. Okay, so number one. First thing you have to do, there's three things you have to do. Tell me yes or no, it's a function, and then give domain and range. That's for numbers 1 through 4. Okay, 1 through 4. So number one, we have this set of ordered pairs, this relation. Does every x have one and only one y? Yes. So it is a function. Okay, then you're supposed to tell me the domain. So it's 4, 6, and 5, the x values, and then the range is 4, 1, and -3, the y values. So I need those three things on numbers 1 through 4. Okay? Some of you did not do all of that. Some of you just put a yes or no. Some of you just put domain and range. Number 2, we got 9, 3, and 7, 4, -3, 6, and 9, 1. Does every x have one and only one y? No. 9 is an x twice, and it's got two different y's, a 3 and a 1. So that is not a function. Okay, but we still are supposed to write domain and range. Okay, you still need to do that, even though it's not a function. So 9, 7, -3 would be my domain. And then my range would be 3, 4, 6, and 1. Again, if you want to put them in the correct order as far as number-wise, littlest to biggest or biggest to lowest, that doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter on your domain or range. Just make sure you have each element. So those two are really easy. Okay, don't mess them up. I think probably number 3 and 4 of the whole thing are the toughest ones. Okay? So what I would do for 3 and 4 is graph them and then look at your vertical line test. You guys know the vertical line test, right? If you draw a vertical line anywhere through the graph and it only hits the graph once, your vertical line only hits the graph once, then it is a function. If you draw a vertical line through it anywhere and it hits more than once, it's not a function. You still need to tell me domain and range. Okay? And you guys should know what these look like, because you've done enough of these. Since it's x squared, what's it going to look like? A parabola, right? Opening up or down. Okay? It's going to be a function, because whenever I use a vertical line test with a parabola that opens up or down, it is a function. Okay? So I'm just getting y by itself so I can look at the graph. So -1 over -2 is positive 1/2 x squared. And 2 divided by -1 is -1. So that's what it looks, when you get y by itself, then you can put it in your calculator. Okay, if you want to make an XY table, you can. Right, but 1/2 is 0.5, x squared minus 1. But I like looking at the graph so I can figure out the domain and range. Okay, so it looks like that. Okay. If you want to look at the table of values to help you, you can go to second graph or table. Okay. When I look at parabolas, I like to look at the symmetrical look of it. Okay. But for a domain, first of all, the vertical line test works. Let's do this. the graph, picture the graph so you can see it. Okay, so all right, if I draw a vertical line anywhere through that, so I'm going to hit once, right? So the answer to this would be yes for function. For all parabolas that open up, the domain is all real numbers. You know, if you want to put it in interval form, that would be negative infinity to positive infinity. The range is from here up, right? There's no y values below that. Okay? And that spot, that y value, if you go to the table, is -1. The smallest it got was -1. It goes, 3.5, 1, -0.5, -1, then it starts going back up. -0.5, 1, 3.5. Okay, so my range then is y is greater than or equal to -1. You can tell that by looking at it. That's why I want to for you to graph number 3 and 4. You can tell what your domain and range is. Okay, because when you look at a parabola that opens up or down, this part, the top, as it keeps going up, what happens to the width of it? Keeps getting wider and wider, doesn't it? This way, forever. So this way is our x's, right? Our domain, forever, either direction. That's why it's all real numbers. Does that make sense? Okay, number 4. The y is squared. Okay? Again, we've talked about this. Who knows what that looks like? Anybody in here? Yeah, it's a parabola that opens sideways, right or left. Okay, when x is squared, opens up or down. When y is squared, right or left, sideways. Both parabolas. Okay, if they were both squared, remember those were circles, right? If it's got an absolute value, like number 6, it's a V, or an upside down V. Okay? So, if I got y by itself here, subtract the x. Again, the only reason I'm drawing it on my calculator, so I can figure out the domain, basically. You got to remember, you're dividing everything by 5. So that's like -1/5. You can just leave it like that. Now, how do I get y alone? There's still a squared there. How do I get rid of that squared? Come on, you guys know this. Square root, thank you. All right, so remember, when you solve for y or x, and you take the square root of both sides, you've got this plus or minus symbol. There's 2 answers, right? So, the first one I didn't have to get this, I didn't solve for x, I solved for y so I could grab it. Okay, so it's the square root. And I just put this in here. All right, so when you put that in your calculator, you're going to have to put your fractions in parentheses. Okay, and you got to do the positive and the negative. So you've got 2 that you have to do. All right, so my positive would be square root, -1/5, x, okay, plus 7/5. All right, now, there's parentheses around the -1/5, there's parentheses around the 7/5. Whenever you use this calculator and you hit square root, it starts out with a parenthesis. So you got to close that off. So there's an extra one, you got to remember. And then I do the same thing, except I put negative in front. Negative. The because I had a positive and a negative. And then again, with negative 1/5 in parentheses x plus parentheses 7/5 and close it off again. Now when you graph it, I'll do the top half and the bottom half. Okay, so it's a parabola that opens up to the left. Okay, if I do the vertical line test, is it a function? No, so this one is no for function. All right, domain and range, okay? So going back to the graph, I guess I'll do this. So you guys can look at it. Okay, so as this keeps going this way, what happens to it? Keeps opening up. So the range this time is all real numbers, okay? Or you can go negative infinity to infinity. Oh, the other one. I guess I could have done this too. For interval here, if you wanted to use the interval here, you go from -1 to infinity. So either way is fine with me. All right, so for domain here, I got to figure out what that is out here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like it might be 7. Okay, it might be the 7 that was in the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to go look at the table just to make sure. All right. Yeah, when I get to 8, there's errors, right? There's no answers. Okay, so it's from 7 that way, my domain. So my x is less than or equal to 7, or you could say from 7 to negative infinity if you want to use interval. Okay, so I think number 4 might be the toughest one, just because it's kind of hard to get y by itself, first of all, but then just looking at it. Okay, so again, x squared, parabola opened up or what, or down, it is a function. Y squared, if it's a parabola opens left or right, it's not a function. Okay, so again, for 1 through 4, yes or no, domain and range. Any questions? Does that help? I think 3 and 4 were the ones that really gave people some issues. You calculate help you out, get y by itself. 5's really easy. The rest of it's really pretty easy. We good so far, Jacob? You okay? Okay. Both Jacobs? All right, so 5, we're looking for p of -3 and p of 4. And p is a piecewise function. P of x is x squared minus 4 when x is less than or equal to 1, and it's negative x plus 5 when x is greater than 1. Okay, so is -3, this is our x, right? This is what the x had said to do. Is -3 fit less than or equal to 1 or greater than 1? Where does it fit? Top or bottom? This number. Does it fit in this inequality or that inequality? The first one, right? So I put the -3 into that one. So this is -3 squared, 9 minus 4. So the answer is 5 for p of -3. Okay? Where does 4 fit? Does it fit less than or equal to 1 or greater than 1? Greater than 1, right? So I'm going to put it in this one. So that's -4. Oops, -4 plus 5 which is 1. That's all I gotta do. Figure out where this number fits, top or bottom one, and plug it into that function, figure out your answer. Don't have to graph it, don't have to do anything else. Really easy. Okay? Questions? Okay, number 6, you're supposed to graph this. There's a negative sign in front of the absolute value. I would do it on my calculator. Okay, so go to your y equals. Clear out what you had in there from 3 or 4. All right, negative. Absolute value again is in math. Move over to number. Move to the right one. ABS is for absolute value. And x minus 3. Oops, hit the wrong thing. X minus 3. Close it up. If you have a newer type calculator, you'll see the straight lines instead of the parentheses. Plus 2. Hit enter. Hit graph. Upside down V because of the negative sign here. Okay, so you need to actually graph it. Every year I've got some kids that don't graph it.
What do you do for the lines? Do you know something?
ABS? Where am I at? ABS is math, and then over to number.
Does it automatically close them off?
No, you have to close it off.
With the parentheses?
Yeah. If you have one like mine. If yours is a little newer, I think it has both of them. Like if yours is like Zion's, I think his has both straight lines in there. I think. So you have to hit the right arrow key to pop out of it, I think. Okay, anybody else question, calculator wise? Okay, so back to the graph. All right, so I wanted you to sketch that graph, you know, as close as you can, so you can figure out the rest of it. Okay. If you need your, how do I look at these values, these points? What do I look at? Table, right? Second graph. Okay. So again, I like to look at where it's kind of, I guess I want to go symmetrical. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, this point here, it goes -1, 0. I'm sorry, 0, -1's right there, and then 1, 0, and 2, 1, 3, 2, and then it goes back down at 4, 1. So this point here, oops, I want my pen, sorry. This point here, very top of it is 3, 2. Okay, so the question is this. It says, determine the interval over which f of x is an increasing function. And then it says, write your answer in interval notation. So over here, it's increasing, right? Once it gets to here, it starts decreasing, okay? When we talk about the interval, we're talking about the domain, the x values, okay? Every year I get kids give me the y values, right? So it's the x value. It's this one that I'm worried about. All right? So the interval is from -infinity to 3. That's what I'm looking for. That's where it's increasing. If I was asking you decreasing, then I would say from 3 to infinity. Okay? Because from here, the x value of 3, it starts going down to infinity forever. All right? That's number 6. 7 and 8, you're finding slope. All right? So remember, here's your slope function. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, rise over run. You guys usually remember that. Rise is up and down. That's why it's the y's in the top. Run is right and left. That's why the x's are in the bottom. Okay? So for 7, 3, 4, and 1, 7, you just use your formula. So the second y, 7, minus the first y, 4, over the second x, 1, minus the first x, 3, would be 3 over negative 2. That's all I'm asking for, is the slope. Again, easy problem. You should be able to do that. Number 8, same type of problem. Negative 3, 4, and negative 4, negative 2. So, second y, negative 2 minus the first y. Second x minus the first x. Minus the negative addition. Right, Mason? So you get negative 6 over negative 1, which would be positive 6. 7 and 8, simple. You were supposed to know that formula. Questions so far? We're good? All right. 9 through 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. You're supposed to find the equation of the line that fits all that stuff. Whatever I give you. Right, Connor? Mm-hmm. Time to wake up. All right, so remember, this is the form I want your answer. Remember, M is slope, and B is the y-intercept. So number 9, I give you the slope and the y-intercept. You just got to write it in. Number 9, I said the slope was 1, and the y-intercept was 0, 3, which means the B is 3. That easy. Just substitute in. I give you that information. Number 10, I give you slope and a point. Okay? Again, there's point slope form if you want to use it. Some of you like that. I usually don't use it though. X1 and Y1 are the point. The X and the Y are just X and Y. The M is still the slope. So if you want to substitute in 2 for Y1 and negative 3 for X1 and put the negative 4 in for M and then get Y by itself, you can't. Some of you are always remember Y equals MX plus B. So you could start like this if you want. And then negative 3 is the X and 2 is the Y. And solve for B. That's usually how I do it. Okay, so that's a positive 12 when I multiply those. When I move the 12 over to figure out the B, the y-intercept, I subtract 12. All right, so this equation becomes y equals negative 4x. Instead of plus B, I put negative 10. So that's number 10. You'll get the same thing if you plug in to the point slope and solve for y. Okay, number 11, I give you 2 points that the line goes through. You have to find the equation. All right, 5 and negative 6, and 2, negative 8. Okay, so I find the slope first, so I can do it. So negative 8 minus negative 6 for the y's, 2 minus 5 for the x's. That's a negative 2 over a negative 3, so it's positive 2/3. So I know the M. Now, it's your choice. You can pick either point to plug in for. Doesn't matter. All right, just one of them though, you don't need both of them. Okay, your choice. I'll just do the first point. So I'm gonna put negative 6 in for the y and 5 in for the x. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, so that's 10/3. So I'm going to subtract 10/3. All right, so let's do that in your calculator. Negative 6 minus, and then 10/3. I'll just put it in parentheses. Oops, I get out of there. Negative 6 minus parentheses 10/3. It's going to give you a decimal. If you want to write the decimal, that's fine with me. If you want to change it to a fraction, I like fractions. So I hit math. Enter twice. So negative 28/3. Okay? So my equation is my slope was 2/3. And then my b is negative 28/3. Again, if you use the decimal, negative 9.3 repeating, that's okay. That's acceptable. All right, number 12, I gave you a point, which was for negative 6. And then I said perpendicular to this line, negative 2/3 x plus 3. A lot of you left this one blank. All right, make sure you understand this, okay, Baluch? So, the slope of the line I want is perpendicular to that slope, which is what? Same? 3/2. Thank you. Opposite reciprocal. Okay? So the opposite of negative 2/3 is positive reciprocal. Flip it, 3/2. Okay? And then use your point. Y is negative 6. X is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Divided by 2. 6. So I got this. Subtract the 6. So my b is negative 12. So my equation becomes y equals 3/2 x, that slope, minus 12. So 9, 10, 11, 12, I need equations in that form, y equals mx plus b form. Questions? Okay. Those of us that are awake and focused. Right, 2 more. Really easy problems. It says f of x equals 1 minus 4x. I get a lot of kids that miss this, but it's really easy. Okay? I'm substituting this 3 in for the f of x, because that's what f of x equals. Every year, though, I'll get kids that'll put it in there for the x. Okay? It's not f of 3. It's f of x equals 3. So we write 3 equals 1 minus 4x. And then just solve for x. So I get 2 equals negative 4x. Divided by negative 4. That reduces to negative 1/2 for number 13. And then 14, and some of you just left that blank. This is really easy. It gives you what f1 of x is. And I give you what f2 of x is. And it says solve f1 of x equals f2 of x. So that's all you gotta do. Just put 4x plus 5 f1 equals F2, which is x plus 6, and just solve that equation. So I'm going to subtract the x, subtract the 5 to get the x's together and the constants together, the 5's and the x's go away. On the right and the left, 4x minus x, remember, is a 3x, and 6 minus 5 is a 1. Divide by 3, so you get 1/3. Don't overthink those last two. Don't second guess yourself. Just do what it says. Okay, 70 points. Not that difficult if you focus today. You weren't zoning out. Okay? So make sure we're here tomorrow. Again, if you are a person that gets queued up, which is, for some of you, you might like it. I wouldn't, but when you can't really do anything, all you got to do is go to my homepage and click on the day. So this was today. Click on it. It goes to what's going on. All right? At the end of the day today, I will have the video of what I just went over added to this. You will be sent a quiz if you're quarantined. You know, when you look at when you go to my homepage, like I have a to-do list, right? You guys have those as well, right? When you get assignments, check your to-do list. If you're quarantined and it's a quiz day, it'll say quest for quarantine test. All right? Instead of quiz or test, it's a quest. All right? It'll be there. I expect you to do it that day and get it turned in. I expect you to keep up with your class. Even though you're quarantined doesn't mean you don't have to do your schoolwork. Well, if you're really sick, I understand. You have to get some things a little later. I'll give you a break. Okay? But let's get that stuff. Let's keep up so you don't have yourself in a huge hole when you do come back. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions? All right. So be ready tomorrow. Come Wednesday, too. I have a little opportunity for some extra credit for you. All right? So let's take advantage of that. Connor loves this one. He was so good at it last year.